go.
Barry Tramel, sellout crowd. Incredible site that he's put together, longtime columnist and now podcaster. He does what we do. And thanks for your time, Barry, with Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak. You would think after 2014, one true champion that ended up the mess between Baylor and TCU in the college playoff, that they would have everything according to plan. And yet, how many scenarios are there this week?
What was it? Kirk Bowles had it, I think, 1,280 or something. I think.
Yeah, 128. 100. Do you feel
100.
Yeah, 120. Did the Big 12 try to slide things by everybody last week by changing up or tweaking a little bit?
No, I really think they were just caught off guard. I mean, the way I see it, I think they got the Pac-12 tiebreaker policy. They said, well, this scanned it. It looks good to us. And didn't really think it through. Nobody really charted it. Nobody said, what about this? What about that? You know, that's what we sort of do for a living. We don't have to worry about all kinds of mundane things in college sports. We can just go to the hot button stuff. So we think about these things, and they don't necessarily always do that. So they got caught off guard. They went public with the clarification on that three-way tie between K-State, OSU, and OU. But hey, there's other stuff that could happen. I mean, if Texas should happen to lose to Tech, I mean, it's a big mess the way it's written to pick two teams from a four-way tie. So it's just, I'm sure they'll clean it up in the off season. They're sort of running on the fly, but it's an example of just not paying attention to details.
Barry, how much consternation will there be in Stillwater if they, in fact, don't wind up in the Big 12 title game, considering they had it well within reach, but then that UCF game happened?
Well, I mean, there will be some consternation. Now, the way I see it, the way I've studied it out, if they beat BYU, they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find a scenario by which they wouldn't be in. So, if they didn't make it, that'd mean losses to UCF and to Brigham Young, the latter at home. So that would be bad. But Cowboys are sort of playing with house money. You lose to South Alabama 33-7 at home, and you don't have the right to be wishing for a great season. You just need to hope they don't padlock the program. So it would be a massive disappointment if they would lose Saturday, not make it. In some ways, losing Saturday would be worse than the UCF game, because UCF's actually a pretty good team. Brigham Young is struggling, and they really are hard pressed to get much done at this point in the season. So to lose to them at home would be a major disappointment. Major.
Barry, you've covered a lot of great running backs there in the state of Oklahoma, much less across the country. Just how special of a run do you think Ollie Gordon's on right now? I know that UCF game was, a pothole in the ride, but he got back to business last week. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from him this season?
Well, he's a remarkable running back. Now, I don't know. The Cowboys have had a pretty good run at tailbacks over the last 30-something years. So he's not Barry Sanders or Thurman Thomas. But they've had guys like, Justice Hill and Jalen Warren and Chuba Hubbard, all three of those guys still in the NFL. And maybe another one. I can't remember if they got anybody else still up there or not. But Ollie Gordon certainly seems in their caliber. And what OSU did was, it was actually, I don't know if it was coaching malfeasance on the front part or coaching brilliance on the back part, but 3 games into the season, they said everybody was focused on the quarterback. They were rotating quarterbacks, rotating tailbacks, but we lost track not of who was playing, but how they were playing. All kinds of RPOs, sideway options, tailbacks getting the ball, flat-footed and then doing something. And finally they figured out we got an old-fashioned tailback who likes to hit the line of scrimmage on the dead run. And they said, let's put Ollie Gordon in there, and that's what they've been doing. And now, there's not a whole lot of dancing or sidestepping with Ollie Gordon. He's on full blast about the time he catches the ball or gets the ball handed to him, and away he goes. And he's been very effective at that. UCF shut him down. I don't know how, but they did. But he's run pretty good. He's run pretty good on a couple of teams, run great on a couple of teams, and he's given them a chance to win. So it's a new kind of offense. It's just sort of old-fashioned, not too much 21st century stuff in terms of hard-charging tailback and then a quarterback who just play action and, throws the ball downfield.
Barry, obviously Dillon Gabriel went out, but good to see what Jackson Arnold did. Even some decisions on the fly, some audibles, and how much of a bright spot, although Gabriel appears to be back for TCU, does that give Oklahoma fans moving forward knowing what Jackson Arnold's capable of doing? And he was a 5-star recruit. Yeah,
the hype for Jackson Arnold is massive. I think some fans were probably a little disappointed that OU didn't unleash him more against BYU. Seemed like they had the kibosh on him and weren't too interested in moving up and letting him just do his thing. Turned out to be the right policy. Offense didn't do much in the second half, but it didn't make mistakes, and BYU did, and they won the game. But Arnold is a fabulous talent, it appears. Heralded recruit. And I think they believe he's more talented than Dillon Gabriel. I really do. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's what they believe. And he's clearly the quarterback of the future, and they're very excited about him. And getting to play in a pressure situation like we saw Saturday, he can't do anything but help. Gabriel probably could get another year of eligibility, but it appears he's ready to move on, and Jackson Arnold era will begin very shortly in Norman.
Barry, you've seen Texas the last few weeks. They've had some scares, but they've always held it off, which is the sign of a veteran team, that they can, make mistakes and overcome them. If they should win against Texas Tech, win the title game, and be in a position to make the college football playoff, should they get in, do you feel good about them being able to win in the college football playoff?
Well, probably not, because they'll probably be playing Georgia, and I don't feel good about anybody playing Georgia. I think Georgia is the best team in the state of Georgia, and that includes the Atlanta football Falcons. So I think Georgia is a monster that OU and Texas are going to have to start dealing with when they get to the SEC. But I do think Texas is legit. When they went to Tuscaloosa and won, I just said, hey, no more talk about is Texas back, making fun of the Longhorns' many travails these last several years. We can't do that anymore. You go to Tuscaloosa and win, everything has been settled. Everything has been accounted for. So, I think Texas, should they meet at Georgia or, I guess, Ohio State or Washington, whoever they might run into, I think they'll acquit themselves pretty well. They've shown themselves a pretty tough team, and the way they've won these last few weeks without being on top of their game is they've toughed it out. They've just not allowed themselves to get out of games, and they stay in it and win it at the end and make the plays. So I salute them. I think they did make the playoffs. I think they would be a tough out, but I don't see anybody beating Georgia. I really don't.
What do you think of Sarkisian, the job he's done? There was a clip of him yesterday. It was about 3 or 4 minutes long about you don't get culture by wearing a T-shirt or putting something up in the locker room or wherever. You build that, from even, do you clean up the room after a team meeting, et cetera. Really impressed with him when we talked to him a couple of years ago, even though last year was not all that good. Your thoughts about, has he surprised you with what he's done there?
Yeah, it surprised me that they've gotten this good this quick. Year 2, I wasn't, it was this year 3, I guess. I can't remember. But a couple of things turned me off on him a little bit early, but clearly the job he's done this year shows that the program is building, getting back to where Texas needs to be to compete in the SEC, or heck, to compete in the Big 12. So I salute the job he's done. I think he's done a very good job. Texas looks like it's, in about as good a position as you can be to make this kind of jump. So, yeah, I think they probably got a keeper in Sarkisian. You never know. Tom Herman, let's see, 17, 18. His second year in Texas, he had the Sugar Bowl year. Everybody thought the future was bright. They reverted back. So you can't be certain what might happen. But I certainly think the arrow was pointing up on Steve Sarkisian.
Barry Tramel with us, selloutcrowd.com. This is the last year for OU in Texas. We know that. It seemed like, other than your Mark's comments in Lubbock and maybe a couple of others, that it's been a pretty quiet, calm. There hasn't really been many bombshells back and forth, and I think Texas kind of controlling it from start to finish and OU winning that game in the Cotton Bowl. Has there been anything in particular you thought that was maybe a little nasty when it seemed like everyone's just playing football?
Yeah, lots of people in Oklahoma think there's a conspiracy with officiating. They would have some legitimacy if they didn't believe that every year about every team they like. So, I don't pay attention to that. But I think it has gone about as good. It's not going to be, when somebody leaves the conference, especially when you leave them potentially in bad shape, you're not going to have the warm fuzzies. And the Big 12, the Big 12 rallied, did a nice job putting a 16-team league together and solidifying themselves. But I just don't know that it could go much better. It's not that it's going good. It's not going to be a good situation. So it's gone about as good as it could. Part of it was helped that, OU had 4 road games this year. 2 of them were, they went to Cincinnati and to Brigham Young, which, what do they care? They're glad OU's leaving. They're the ones, that's the reason they got into the league. So one of them was at Kansas, and, it's not basketball, so Kansas really doesn't care. So the really only just murderous environment would have been in Stillwater. And, if you're going to have a swan song like that, just one really tense road game with a venomous road game, probably couldn't ask for a much of a better schedule than that.
When Texas OU made the decision, Barry, and I know you got to go, but when they made the decision, when that story popped with Brent Zerneman, did you by any means see the Big 12 being in the position they are today just 2 years later?
No, I thought the Big 12 would be in bad shape. I thought that OSU and potentially whoever, Tech, K-State, Baylor, whatever 4 you want to come up with, I thought the Pac-12 would pilfer 4 of those. And clearly they should have, because they're now, they're on hospice themselves. So it seemed like maybe the Big 12 future was bleak, if not determined. But I give Bob Bowlesby a lot of credit. I give the decision makers in the league a lot of credit. And then I think we can also blame the Pac-12's lack of vision. So I think that's where we're at. But I really like where the Big 12 is. It's going to be the conference of parity. It won't get the big money or the big eyeballs, that Big Ten gets, SEC gets. But, if CBS and NBC, they can broadcast all the Big Ten games they want. And it's still going to be boring football if it's not Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Oregon, for instance. In other words, who else the other night playing on NBA? Oh, Wisconsin, Nebraska. I got back to my hotel room in Provo, flipped on the TV. First college game I came to was NBC, and it was Nebraska, Wisconsin. And it's just mind-numbingly boring football. So Big 12 doesn't do that. Big 12 doesn't do that. They play interesting games. You don't know who's going to win year to year, from game to game, from week to week. So, I think it's a very, very promising future. Financially, it's not going to be what they wanted or what they hoped for, but you know what? It's going to be a pretty good existence. And as long as they don't have envy and don't try to keep up with people they don't need to keep up with, I think those schools can flourish.
Barry, we just saw this week in the last couple of days where Washington State announced that they're going to continue to play. Obviously, A&M Texas coming back with the SEC move. But what do you think the future holds, short-term, long-term, for Bedlam? I know that it's not really a question that you can answer exactly right now, but just reading the tea leaves and kind of knowing all the parties involved, what do you think the future is there?
I think eventually it'll start back up. I think we'll go dormant for a few years. We've seen that with some other traditional rivalries. I think there's not a lot of desire on either side to play. OSU basically admits it. OU hasn't said that publicly, but I think it's the truth. I do think other parties could be involved. I think the networks could get involved and say, we're tired of paying for these games that nobody wants to see. How about you start playing some games people want to watch? Bedlam's always been an excellent draw. I think game day, ESPN Game Day has been in the 21st century. I think they've been to Bedlam 7 times, I think it was. So that's a lot of game days. And game day is not going to Stillwater for many other games. So I think eventually OSU will realize, hey, this is a platform and a marquee situation we really came to rely on. And so I think you'll see more push, but it'll take a 3 or 4 year period. People have to start missing it. OU will have to spend some Thanksgiving weekends in Columbia, Missouri. OSU, wherever they might be, I don't know, Boulder or someplace. So I think both sides eventually will get it back, and we'll go from there.
Barry, for you, I know that you guys have this new venture at Sellout Crowd, but for someone who's always covered Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in the same conference, how will this be a new, different challenge to cover these two schools as they spread across the country, and you try to figure out, balance the weight of what's going on?
Well, let me put it to you this way. When I started out, of course, got in the business in 1978 at the age of 17. So my first, 17 years working for newspapers, I was following the Big 8 heavy. And outside of my schools, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, you know how many schools I had to keep up with? 6. You know how many schools I got to keep up with besides the Sooners and Cowboys now? 30.
Yeah.
Literally. 15 in the SEC, 15 in the Big 12. It's madness. I gotta do some admission here. There's a whole bunch of basketball coaches in the SEC and the coming Pac-12. I don't even know who they are. I don't know who's the basketball coach at Arizona State, for crying out loud. I don't know who the basketball coach is at Mississippi. I got to get up to speed on that stuff because, forever, not only have I known all the basketball coaches in the Big 8/Big 12, but I've known the history. I could remember Sox Walseth, and I could remember Danny Nee, and I could remember Joe Cipriano, and I could remember down at Baylor, Harry Miller, and I could remember all the Texas coaches from Abe Lemons to Tom Penders, and now I don't know any of that stuff. I got to learn it, and I got to tell you, the human brain is like a computer. It's only got so much memory, so I can learn some of that stuff. But if I learn it, something's going in, but something's going out. So it's going to be a mess, but I guess I'll persevere, or I might just focus on football. Who knows?
The good news on Arizona State, though, I'll tell you, it's Bobby Hurley, who...
Oh, that's right, Bobby Hurley. I should have known that.
I was going to add Ole Miss.
All right, let me ask you guys this. Who's the coach of Utah? Is it the old guy from
Rick Majerus.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea who the coach is.
I was going to tell you.
I don't know who the coach is.
Ole Miss is Chris Beard, though. That's the one that is.
I should have known that one too.
Well, no, I mean all that was such a mess. But yeah, that when you said Ole Miss, Chris Beard, the coach at Ole Miss, that makes for some interesting stories with Texas being a conference team coming up.
Craig Smith at Utah.
Great. There you go. I think they struggle. Hey, Barry, thank you, man. Appreciate your experience over the years and also the storytelling and the facts. Appreciate your time. Have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks a lot.
That's Barry Tramel, long time.